Part 141. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1401. Chapter 1401. Ye Wei and Painter get along for the first time. Li Panner stared straight at Ye Wei. He felt very comfortable at the first sight of her, and seemed to have a special sense of closeness. Who are you? My name is Ye Wei, who are you? Li Painter was surprised and smiled knowingly when she heard her name. When she smiles, her eyes are curved and very beautiful. Oh, are you sister? Yes, mother. Yes, you are very smart. Hearing such straightforward praise, Li Painter felt a little shy. She also introduced herself to Ye Wei. Hello, aunt, my name is Li Painter. This is the first time that Ye Wei and Li Painter met, and it was a very comfortable atmosphere. Ye Wei is a little different from ordinary parents. The way she usually communicates with her children is not like an adult giving instructions to the child, but more like a friend. Li Painter was used to being beaten and scolded by the Li family and his wife, so she was already obedient. Now she was very shy when she saw Ye Wei. She is used to being obedient and is not very cheerful in finding topics. On the contrary, Ye Wei was particularly fond of her and very patient. I saw you once the day you first came here, but unfortunately I couldn't talk to you. I'm sorry, I fell asleep last time. It's okay, taking good care of your health is more important. I was on a business trip a few days ago, so I came to see you now, don't be offended. Auntie, yeah, you have helped me a lot. It's not too late for me to thank you. I have learned something about your health from the doctor. The doctor said that you have recovered well recently. Then when will my illness get better? It takes time to take care of your body, so don't be too anxious. I've been here for a long time. I don't know if my parents are looking for me. Your parents? Ye Wei thought of the things he heard from Dr. Ying before. The behavior of the Li family and his wife is not worth worrying about at all. But after all, Li Painter is blood relatives with them. Ye Zixi asked tentatively, do you want to go home? Li Painter pursed her lips and lowered her head speechlessly. She didn't want to go back, but she had to go back. She knows her parents' personalities better than anyone else. As long as she returns home, endless beatings and scoldings await her. In the past few days in the city, she found that these people were very nice, and even strangers would help her. So she doesn't understand why her closest parents treat her like that. Just because she is a useless daughter? The life these days is in sharp contrast to the life of the previous 10 years. She likes her current comfortable life. But she is not someone who forgets her roots. She is not afraid of poverty. If her parents treat her as well as other ordinary parents, she will definitely be reluctant to leave home. But in fact, that place was not home for her, but another kind of hell. Well, whether you want to go home or not is a matter for later. Auntie won't ask you anymore. The most important thing now is to take good care of your health, you know. By the way, what do you usually do when you are in the hospital? Sister, yeah, give me your mobile phone to play with. Are you feeling bored? It's not boring. I found out that you can read in the video. This is what she discovered after learning about the search function. She studies knowledge on her mobile phone and enjoys it. So you like reading? Ye Wei remembered that Li Painter was 14 years old but was still in primary school. Well, I've learned a lot recently and I feel good. Ye Wei secretly wrote it down. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1402. Chapter 1402. My children. Li Painter received the basic book the next day. It was not the grade-level knowledge she had learned, but some books on literature. The content in the book is presented in different stories, which looks very interesting and you can learn some knowledge from it. Li Painter is addicted to reading. She reads while sitting on the bed or taking a walk outside. She was walking along the corridor when a child holding a toy ball hurried over. Accidentally bumped into each other, the ball rolled down, and the child sat on the ground and cried. Ah! Lipaner was startled and quickly bent down to pull the child up. Unexpectedly, a middle-aged woman suddenly crawled out and pushed her away. Lipaner was pushed away unexpectedly, her body hit the railing, and she felt a pain in her back. The woman picked up the child and comforted her. Chang Chang, don't cry. Who bullied you? Mom, help you teach her a lesson. She took my balloon away. The child over 2 years old could not express his meaning clearly. He only knew that the ball rolled away after hitting Lipaner, so he understood that Lipaner had taken his balloon away. Once a woman hears her child crying, what's the point? What's wrong with you, kid? Where's my son's ball? The balloon fell over there. Lipaner turned his head and pointed back. The ball fell and got stuck in the corner. Really, I don't know any family that teaches children who bullies even small children. The woman took her son to pick up the ball, but someone picked it up first. Don't you feel a little ashamed when you say this? Ye Wei held the ball in his palm and weighed it twice, with no intention of returning the ball. She walked to Lipaner and handed the ball out. Paner, come here. And since they said you had the ball, take it away and show it to them. Lipaner opened her mouth slightly in surprise when she heard this sentence. How dare you do this? Ye Wei stood aside to support her, not afraid of the woman at all. The woman lost face, and her son clamored for a balloon. This is my son's ball, what do you want to do? The ball was spinning in Ye Wei's palm, and she replied calmly, we don't accept injustice. Since you believe that it was my child who took your son's balloon, of course we have to show it to you. She held the ball in one hand and grabbed Lipaner with the other. Putting the ball in his hand, he grabbed Lipaner's hand and hit it out. The ball rolled into the corner again. The woman was furious when she saw Ye Wei demonstrating to her. Don't be too bullying. Don't be too bullying. It was clearly your child who took my son's ball and pushed him to the ground. Ye Wei did not listen to the woman's words. She only let Lipaner speak for herself. Paner, tell her what's going on. Lipaner nodded and said slowly, I was walking by here just now, and then the little brother ran over. He bumped into me and cried. Nonsense, my son is so young and can he hit you? Ye Wei couldn't help but sneer and asked, then do you want to adjust the monitoring system? You. The woman was rendered speechless by her determined aura. She picked up the ball with her son in her arms and left angrily. Lipaner was shocked when she witnessed the whole process. Why is it so satisfying to see a fierce woman get off? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1403. Chapter 1403 Discovering Paner's Talent. There is another point that puzzles Lipaner. Auntie, how do you know I didn't take the kid's ball? I have no idea. Ah. But I believe you. One simple sentence made Lipaner's heart swell. It turned out that Ye Wei didn't know what was going on, but he defended her immediately and stood up for her. Paner, don't be too weak as a person. Only weak people will be bullied. But I know the life you lived before. In fact, Auntie also lived a very weak life for a period of time, but her luck was much better than Lipaner. Back then, no one dared to bully her even if she was weak, because she had the Ye family as her backer and Yezikin's wholehearted protection. And her own desire for self-protection is actually very strong. She does not rely on brute strength or momentum, she only needs to use a little thought to achieve her goals. but her recent contact with Li Panner made her realize that Li Panner is really a real child. Although she is 14 years old, judging from the things she has been exposed to, she is as simple and innocent as an 8 or 9-year-old child. Li Panner has been accustomed to being oppressed for a long time, so she doesn't know how to resist when being bullied. This is the easiest way to suffer. Let me tell you, in this world, you are the only person who can best protect yourself. No matter what you face in the future, you must be strong, you know? If someone bullies you once, you must fight back. I knows that she has not learned what it means to take a step back to open up the world. She has always had a rule: I will not offend others unless they offend me. If someone offends me, I will fight back. Li Panner listened quietly to Ye Weiwei's teachings. She thought about it and someone else said the same thing to her. Sister Ye also said the same thing before. Of course, mother and daughter are of the same mind. When she mentioned her daughter, Ye Weiwei's mood naturally improved. Li Panner also had a slight smile on her face. She felt that the people in the Ye family were really nice. Her brother took good care of her sister, and her mother loved her children very much. These are completely different from the situation at her home. She was really envious in her heart. Okay, let's not talk about this for now. Do you like the book I asked someone to send you? Thank you, Auntie Ye. You don't have to be so polite. Just like it? How many have you seen? Well, I've only read 2 books now. Two books. She was shocked when she heard Li Panner say the words read 2 books so plainly. Okay. A book is at least 3 centimeters thick. Have you read 2 books in just 2 days? Do you hold the book and chew its contents all the time? Have you chosen to read some of them? Ye Weiwei also guessed whether she had skipped the reading. Li Panner replied, I have read every story. No. Ye Weiwei picked up the book in her hand. Then let me test you. Okay. She flipped to the middle of the book and picked out a story to ask her. As a result, Li Panner explained every detail in it clearly. They returned to the ward while chatting. Ye Weiwei changed the previous book to test her again, and Li Panner still answered very comprehensively. Reading 1 book a day without missing any details is amazingly fast for the time it takes for the general public to read books, right? You don't have any hidden talents, do you? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1404. Chapter 1404, Bring Panner back to Ye's house. No, I just have a better memory, Li Panner answered sincerely. Ye Weiwei couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Great people are humble. Li Panner's reading ability is simply better than 10 lines in one glance. Ye Weiwei wanted to take her to take a test. Li Panner's health has improved a lot recently, and even the doctor said she can be discharged from the hospital. As long as you stay calm, don't overwork yourself, and just take a good rest. Li Panner's condition has stabilized, and it is not good to stay in the hospital for a long time. While relaxing at home in the evening, Ye Weiwei mentioned this matter. Ruruo, you promised Mr. Ying to pay for Panner's medical treatment before. Now Panner's condition has stabilized and long-term hospitalization is not an option. Do you want to contact Mr. Ying and ask? Dr. Ying is also kind-hearted to help Panner, but we can't let Dr. Ying take Panner back. That's what you said. If you leave Panner to Mr. Ying can only take her home. When Yezhiruo heard this, he quickly shook his head. This is not possible. If Panner goes home, he will suffer again. This doesn't work, that doesn't work either, so what should I do? The only thing that makes me sad is the night. Although she is a mature thinking adult, she has never encountered anything involving other people's children. She was about to help Li Panner pay for medical treatment, but there was no way to completely solve Li Panner's matter. After all, Li Panner's biological parents were still alive and she could neither find anyone to adopt nor send her to an orphanage. They can only delay. Mother and daughter were worried about the same problem at the same time. Ye Qingfeng, who was playing with car model parts on the table, suddenly said, "What's there to worry about? Since you two like her so much, why not bring her home to stay temporarily?" Ye Weiwei, huh? Yes Hiruo, huh? They all looked at Ye Qingfeng and asked in unison, "Are you serious?" Ye Qingfeng was stared at by them so much that his hands trembled and the parts in his hands fell on the table. He nodded under the meaningful gazes of mother and daughter, "Really?" Ye Weiwei and Ye Hiruo took back time at the same time, then looked at each other, stretched out their hands to high five at the same time, "Same as I think." Ye Zikan, who had just returned home, knew nothing about their decision and asked with a serious expression, "What happened?" Ye Qingfeng responded while studying the model in his hand, "My most beloved mother and cutest sister plan to bring home a little sister from the countryside." "What happened?" "Husband, let me tell you about this later. I want to know now." "Ahem, don't be so straight-faced, let's go back to the room and talk slowly later." Ye Weiwei knew that Ye Zikan was repelled by strangers coming to their home, especially when they planned to let Li Painter stay for a while. So she had to talk to Ye Zikan about this matter. When the two children heard the ambiguous words, they coughed together, which muddled the serious atmosphere. After dinner, Ye Weiwei was taken back to the bedroom by Ye Zikan. Without saying much, he went straight to the topic. "Tell me, what did you conspire to do? What is conspiracy? Don't change the subject with me." "Okay, let me tell you. Ruruo met a friend at school before, her name is Li Painter." Ye Weiwei told Ye Zikan what he knew about Li Painter's tragic experience, hoping to inspire some sympathy in him. But she stared at it for a long time, and the result disappointed her. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1405. Chapter 1405. Daddy and Mommy are doing shameful things. After hearing this, Ye Zikan's expression remained unchanged, as calm as ever. Ye Weiwei deliberately pulled his hand. "Hey, do you really have no compassion at all?" Ye Zikan asked calmly, "Why should I feel compassion for people who have nothing to do with me? He is that kind of person who has no unnecessary sympathy. He only cares about his family. Well, do you agree to me bringing Panner home to stay for a few days? As long as you are happy. You do not mind." "Mind that. But since it's her ability to make you and Ruruo like her, I won't stop you two from doing anything you want to do." "Wow, thank you husband." Ye Weiwei was moved and stood on tiptoes to kiss Ye Zikan on the cheek. Sure enough, the expression on the man's face, who was still calm and collected, changed instantly. Slender and strong arms held her in his arms, and the masculine aura lingered around him. A low and magnetic voice came from the side, "I will meet your requirements, so you should also meet mine, right?" You're taking advantage of the situation." Covering his hot cheeks, his voice became a little weaker. A man said bluntly, "Well, I'm jealous." The brother and sister downstairs were counting the time. Ye Qingfeng finally finished the car model. "Done, call it a day." "Okay, I'm now sure that Mommy has convinced Daddy and promised to marry her." "Ruruo, children can't be so evil." "No, I'm just stating a fact." Ye Qingfeng carefully took his car model back to the toy room and placed it, while Ye Hiruo followed silently behind him. When Ye Qingfeng put down the model and turned around, he saw Ye Hiruo standing at the door, obviously waiting for him. "What do you want to ask Ruruo?" "I'm just curious, brother, you and Panner haven't gotten along well, so why did you offer to let her stay at home for a while?" As a family member and a fellow sister, no one understands Ye Qingfeng better than Ye Hiruo. Besides his personality, Ye Qingfeng is very much like Ye Zikan in many aspects. He has always been indifferent to others. At first glance, this suggestion can't help but surprise. But for this question, Yet Xingfeng had already found the answer in his heart. I would really like to know about someone who can attract you and mommy at the same time. Brother, is there something you didn't say? Brother, you don't reject Panur, right? Even though she is a stranger to us. Yet Xingfeng did not give a positive answer but also did not deny it directly, which was acquiescence. Actually, they are all curious, what kind of magic power does Li Painter have? I felt very comfortable from the first moment I saw her. She would have been lost in the crowd, but they were still only interested in Li Painter. In this way, the family finalized a series of arrangements without Li Painter's knowledge. There are many guest rooms in Ye's house, and Ye Wei chose one of them and asked someone to clean it out for Li Painter to live in. Li Painter arrived here for the first time, and when she walked into this gorgeous villa, she felt like she was stepping on the clouds. Every step she took was cautious, as if she didn't pay attention, she might fall from the clouds to the bottom of the valley and be knocked back to her original shape. Yasuhiro saw her discomfort and deliberately walked beside her and held her little hand. Panur, don't be so formal. Our family members are all very easy to get along with. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1406. Chapter 1406 Yezikin meets Panur. Li Panur didn't answer for a while. She held Yasuhiro's hand, feeling very nervous. As soon as she entered the door, she saw a man sitting in the living room, holding a newspaper in his hand and reading. From here, you can only see the man's profile. Although he is sitting, you can still imagine that he is tall and powerful. She didn't know who it was and was too embarrassed to ask, so she could only follow Yasuhiro. The housekeeper followed him to lead the way, and Yasuhiro asked casually, "Where is my mommy?" "My lady is in the room upstairs checking for anything missing." Okay. If Yeji wanted to bring Li Panur into the room, he would have to pass by Yezikin. It was impossible to ignore him directly. Yasuhiro took Li Panur and walked in the direction of Yezikin. Yezikin read the newspaper seriously, as if he was indifferent to everything. Yasuhiro used his brains to think of a solution. If Yezikin had this kind of attitude towards Li Panur would definitely feel a lot of pressure. "Daddy, I brought Panur." She deliberately held Yezikin's arm and shook it, just like a little daughter holding her father's arm to introduce her good friend to him. Yezikin, who doted on his daughter, was naturally reluctant to touch her face, so he put down the newspaper and raised his eyes to look at Li Panur. At this time, Li Panur felt nervous, shy and uncomfortable with the unfamiliar environment, so she lowered her head. Yezikin didn't see her face clearly, but he noticed her biting her lip. The people from the Ye family have already prepared a room for her, as well as the things she needs in daily life. Yasuhiro sighed deeply. The adult is serious and the child is shy. What these two do is really embarrassing for her. It was difficult for Yezikin to take the initiative to speak, so Yasuhiro had no choice but to start with Li Panur. She introduced her father to Li Panur. "Panur, this is my daddy. You can call him Uncle Ye." Although Li Panur is shy, she is not ungrateful. She knew how to say hello after hearing the introduction. "Yeah, Uncle Ye, hello." She stutters when she's nervous. This is a habit she can't change even if she wants to. It was precisely this habit that made Yezikin pay more attention to her. He whispered the name that had been lingering in his ears several times, "Li Panur." "Arrive." Li Panur responded reflexively. She raised her head at this moment, and Yezikin could see her face clearly. Due to long-term lack of nutrition, her appearance is not healthy enough, and her skin is not very good, but her clear eyes are particularly bright and attractive. These eyes were like the person in his memory. Yezikin doesn't like people who look pitiful, and he won't be impressed at all by those so-called pitiful people. But Lipaner's appearance reminded him of the past again and again. Her little movements and habit of stuttering when nervous are the same as Yeyiyi. And those pure eyes are more similar to Yeyiyi than Yezhiruo. With such a fate, it is no wonder that Yewei and Yezhiruo have a good impression of this girl. Your mommy is still waiting for you upstairs, take her up. Yes, daddy. Yezhiruo chuckled twice and pulled Lipaner upstairs. Yezhiruo quietly said to her, Paner, my dad doesn't like to smile. Don't be afraid of him. He is still very good. The first half of the sentence is true, but the last half is worth pondering. Yezikin's standard for treating others is polarized. Whether she is good or bad depends on herself. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1407. Chapter 1407 Mo Xiongnuan. Yezhiruo couldn't wait to take Lipaner upstairs. Just as he was about to enter the room, Yezhiruo kicked him out. You two stand aside. Ah. I'll come back later, I just sprayed some air freshener, I'll come back after I have some fresh air. Okay. Yezhiruo gave her an okay gesture. Seeing that Lipaner was still standing there blankly and at a loss, she pulled Lipaner around. Come, let me tell you about the layout of the villa. You saw the first floor, which is the living room, kitchen, bathroom, and so on. My brother and I's room is on the second floor, and Daddy and Mommy's room is on the third floor. The third floor is Daddy and Mommy's private territory. I usually don't go there. Let's just talk about the second floor. My brother and I's rooms are on the left, and there are guest rooms on the right. Yezhiruo took her around the second floor. Lipaner saw the doors of each room were closed. She counted them and found that there were several rooms on this floor, which looked quite big. Your room is also on the second floor, not far from ours, this is a toy room. During the conversation, Yezhiruo had already reached out and pushed open the door. A room full of childlike interest appears in front of Lipaner, giving people a bright feeling. Wow! Things inside look interesting. However, Yezhiruo said, the things in here are piled up from childhood to adulthood. Some toys are too childish. We almost don't play here anymore. However, some of my brothers and my usual entertainment facilities will also be placed in it. If you can come in and play if you like, but don't touch the things in the glass cabinet casually, it's my brother's collection. Yezhiruo said a lot at once, and Lipaner nodded while listening. Actually, even if Yezhiruo didn't tell her, she wouldn't bang those things casually. Because she doesn't know what those strange things are? How should it be played? She also knew that this was someone else's home, and even if she was interested in the things here, she would not be embarrassed to speak. After walking out of the toy room, Yezhiruo took Lipaner through a room. There was a very delicate sign hanging above the room, which made her stop and look at it a few more times. Yezhiruo, who was walking in front, noticed her move, turned around, took 2 steps back, and whispered in her ear, there are no special rules in our house, but some rooms cannot be entered at will. I don't want to enter, I just think that the cloud-shaped sign looks good. The cloud-shaped sign is pink and looks like a boutique piece, beautifully decorated. Yezhiruo stretched out her hand to hold the door number, her eyes dimmed a bit, this is my sister's room. This door number was replaced by a new one just last week by my mom. Does Sister Ye have a younger sister? Oid. Then where is she? She's not at home. Oh. Paner, you can go in and play in the toy room next to it, but it's best not to get close to this room. This is the master's advice, and Lipaner has nothing to refute. She didn't even ask why and said directly, okay. Yezhiruo was very satisfied with her obedient behavior. Okay, let's go, I'll take you to the yard to see. Yezhiruo put down the door sign when he turned around, and Li Painter inadvertently caught a glimpse of the name engraved on the door sign, Mo Xiang Nguyen. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1408. Chapter 1408. If it is her biological sister. There is a pond on one side, a swimming pool on the other side, and a garden in the middle. The small room opposite is the piano room and dance studio. Well, there's also, forget it, you don't need the rest. There is also a place where Yezikan and Yeching Feng exercise, so Li Panner doesn't need to know. Li Panner looked along where Yezhiruo pointed and saw the small room in her mouth. That small house is bigger than her entire home in the countryside. Everything she saw today was beyond Li Panner's expectation, and she was so shocked that she was speechless. Yezhiruo introduced this to her without any intention of showing off his wealth, but really wanted her to understand the general layout of the place. Yezhiruo kept repeating in Li Panner's ear, "My family is very easy to get along with, don't be too rigid." Li Panner bit her lip gently and nodded. In fact, there is no place where it is possible not to be restrained. This is a place she has never set foot on. If she hadn't met Yezhiruo, she might never have been able to enter such a gorgeous house in her life. By the time Yezhiruo and Li Painter completed a round of walking, more than half an hour had passed. They retraced their steps and went upstairs again. The simple guest room was decorated into a cozy bedroom. Li Panner stood at the door and didn't dare to step in. Yezhiruo pushed her behind her and said, "Panner, go in and take a look. If you are dissatisfied with anything, please tell us so that we can ask someone to replace it in time." Li Painter stared at everything in the room with her eyes wide open. She has no dissatisfaction and cannot make any mistakes. When Yezhiruo asked her if she liked it, her inner excitement was so intense that it was about to burst out. The result turned out to be tears of joy. Yezhiruo didn't understand what her reaction meant. "Don't you like it? Why are you crying?" Li Painter wiped her tears and finally said the words she had been holding in her heart for a long time with a tearful voice, "Sister, yeah, you are so kind to me. Except for Grandma, no one has ever been so kind to me." The love that her grandma gave her was different from the help the Ye family gave her, because she was a family member and her grandma would protect her, but the Ye family was a stranger to her, but they cared so much for her. "How did your parents bully you in the past?" They dislike me for being a girl, and they will take out their anger on me whenever they are unhappy. I have worked really hard, I will listen to what they say, and I will work hard, but no matter what I do, I can't reach them. I want only Grandma to be nice to me." It is a pity that after Grandma passed away, the Li family did not even allow her to continue studying. At this moment, Li Painter burst into tears, crying like a child. She was originally a child, but now she is more cautious than before. Yezhiruo patted her back gently to comfort her. Don't cry, we will treat you well in the future." Thinking of the sufferings Li Panner suffered and the scars she had seen on Li Panner, Yezhiruo felt very sad. Hearing Li Panner cry so sadly, she couldn't hold back her emotions. When she was comforting Li Panner, she really felt like she was a sister. If her biological sister suffered like this, she would be so angry that she would catch all those who bullied her and cut them into pieces. Yezhiruo thought of the missed sister Mo Xiang Nguyen. It's a pity that Nguyen is a person who no longer exists in the world, no matter good or bad. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1409. Chapter 1409. The incident was exposed. Ying's Heshan, tell me, where did you take my daughter? The Li couple finally couldn't help but rushed into Dr. Ying's house one afternoon and grabbed him for questioning. Even though they despise their daughter, they can't just throw away the daughter they've raised for more than 10 years in vain, right? Then wouldn't they be at a loss? Dr. Ying had been blocking the Li family's mouth with medical expenses before, but after a while, they finally couldn't bear it anymore. Mother Li directly threatened, "If you don't hand over my daughter today, we will go directly to the village chief to talk." The person who has the most power to handle things in rural areas is the village chief. The Li couple were messing around, and even though Dr. Ying used his brain to delay the matter, he couldn't do anything about it. In the end, they still went to the village chief. Everyone in the village knows that the Li family's husband and wife have bad behavior, but after all, Li Panner is a child of the Li family. It makes sense that the village chief has to ask Dr. Ying, "Dr. Ying, just tell them, Panner's child, where is it? I told you that Panner is treating illnesses in the city. If you want to find Panner, you can go to the city." "You are talking nonsense. How can Panner have the money to go to the city for medical treatment? Did you abduct my daughter?" "Humph. You think everyone is as heartless as you, and you don't even care about the life or death of your own daughter for the sake of money. Now there are kind-hearted people who are willing to save her life, and you are still messing around here." These words are like a slap in the face of the Li family couple. However, the Li couple were rough-skinned, and Li's father was even more unrepentant and suppressed her with force. "Ying's Hishan, don't tell us these big principles here. We are Panner's biological parents, and we treat her badly. No one else can interfere, no matter what. If you refuse to tell us, we will call the police directly." Mother Li was standing next to her and echoed, "Yes, call the police." The village chief stood aside and groaned, "Everyone can talk to each other and everything can be discussed. We belong to the same village, so why should we make the relationship so tense? Ying's Hishan took my daughter away. Village chief, do you think we as parents should not be anxious? What you're saying is, everyone, please stop making noise." The village chief roared loudly and used all his majesty to suppress the two sides for a while. The village chief knew that the only way to communicate in a civilized manner was with Dr. Ying, so he had no choice but to start with Dr. Ying. "Ying's Hishan, I know you are a kind-hearted person, and I believe you will not do anything harmful to the child. But since the child's biological parents are looking for her now, you should tell the truth. It won't be good for you if this thing gets too big." It is indeed reasonable for the village chief to act as a peacemaker from the perspective of a rational bystander. In the end, Dr. Ying was an honest man and could not play tricks, so he finally told the truth. Panner met an eldest lady from a wealthy family in the city before. Knowing that she was in danger, the eldest lady said she was willing to pay for Panner's medical treatment. Now Panner is recuperating at her home. What? A young lady from a rich family? We have never heard Panner say this before. Are you lying to us? Hey, you have nothing to lie to. Panner is right not to tell you. You think about how to get Panner to do things for you every day. How have you ever truly understood and cared about Panner's affairs? You. As soon as she said this, Mother Li was speechless. Father Li snorted, "It's none of your business how to raise the daughter of our Li family. Tell us now how to find Panner." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1410. Chapter 1410. The Li family and his wife went to the city to find their daughter. The Li family couple returned home and were very confused. Father Li asked, "Should you believe what Ying's Hishan said?" Mother Li analyzed truthfully, "To be honest, I don't know. Ying's Hishan has been in the village for many years and his character is so good. He shouldn't dare to do anything to Panner blatantly. But he said that Panner was raped by a rich man. Isn't it too rare that this young lady is interested in that man and is willing to help Panner pay for his medical treatment? To be honest, Dr. Ying's attitude towards Li Panner is better than that of his parents, and they also feel a little bit wrong. But the concept of money is very important to them. They don't believe that rich people are so stupid that they would pay for a stranger's medical treatment. Father Lee suddenly remembered, hey, do you remember that Panner brought those clothes with her when she just came back from the city? Those clothes look like they are worn by wealthy people, maybe they are real. What you said seems to make sense. Then shall we go to the city to have a look? Go to the city to have a look? You said it easily. It costs a lot of money to go there. Are we spending all the money we have worked hard to save just to pick up that dead girl? You're stupid. If Panner really hooks up with a rich man, can't we take advantage of the opportunity? If Panner doesn't, it proves that Ying's Heshan is lying. Then we will hold on to Ying's Heshan. You won't suffer any loss after all. That's a good idea. The Li couple hid at home and secretly conspired, and finally decided to pack up their things and go to the city. Dr. Ying was forced to give them the address of the hospital and a number to contact Yezhiruo. At that time, Dr. Ying felt that the Li family would not be willing to spend money to go to the city, but he underestimated the nature of money-obsessed people. As long as they have a way to get money, they can do anything, so they don't think about whether it is reasonable or not. Is it moral? The Li couple baked some cakes and packed them with food that could be stored overnight, and hitched a ride into the city the next day. They have been to the city before, but this time is very rare, maybe not even once a year. They slowly walked out of the station after getting off the bus. There were many people holding signs beside the station asking if they wanted accommodation. Mother Li took out the piece of paper with the hospital address from her bag. Old Li, how do we get to this hospital? They were reluctant to pay for a ride, and they didn't have such a high-end mobile phone to search Baidu Maps, so they finally decided on the oldest way, walking. Ask for directions. Okay. They thought they had time to walk over slowly, but when they asked, many people around them didn't know. They finally asked someone, but that person told them that the hospital was in the city center, more than 20 kilometers away. It takes an hour or two to take a car. If you walk, your legs will have to be ruined. What should I do now? Let's take a car. The bus cannot reach it directly, and some people suggested that they use light rail. The Li family has never done anything so high-tech. They spent a lot of time here and even made a joke when going through the security check. They also worked hard to find Li Panner this time. By the time we arrived in that urban area, it was almost dark. What to do with these? Hurry to the hospital and find someone. Their manager went through a lot of trouble to find the hospital and was amazed when he saw the tall building. If Panner really gets medical treatment here, how much will it cost? End of this chapter.